What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with the RK Outpost, and after its first few days of release, The Batman seems to be resonating with audiences, including myself. Despite any rumors you may have heard to the contrary, I did go see The Batman. I thought it was a good movie. I gave it an 8 out of 10, and it looks like a lot of people are also enjoying it. But one thing that people aren't enjoying about this movie, and specifically about the movie-going experience, is the price that they're having to pay, specifically at AMC. Because AMC has decided that if you want to go see The Batman opening weekend, you're going to have to pay just a little bit more. And that's above what already has been skyrocketing ticket prices for the last several years. Here's the headline from Bounding Into Comics. AMC theaters charging more for you to see The Batman, fulfilling a prediction made by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. The AMC theater chain isn't boycotting Warner Brothers or The Batman like they threatened to do with Universal at the height of COVID, but they are installing measures that might make their customers reconsider seeing it. They're raising ticket prices on the Matt Reeves film and other blockbuster attractions this weekend by $1.50, and AMC chief executive Adam Aron explained the move in a conference call with investors on Tuesday. Prices for the Batman tickets will be, quote, slightly higher than the prices for other movies playing in the same theaters at that time. He said, this is all quite novel in the United States, but we've been doing it for years in our European theaters. Those Euro-based chains AMC owns are Odeon and UCI cinemas. Indeed, in Europe, we charge a premium for the best seats in the house, as do just about all other sellers of tickets in other industries. Think sport events, concerts, and live theater, for example. So, on the surface, the concept of it is interesting to put it in that type of perspective. Think about sports. Yeah, if you want a better seat in sports, you are going to have to pay a higher price. In fact, if you think of your home team as the constant, depending on what team comes into town, you may end up paying more. But in that case, if you're talking about, well, whoever's coming in, it might be a better matchup, that is not done typically by the actual sports team, by the actual stadium itself. That's usually done in the secondary market. People buying those tickets up and then selling it when the big team comes to town, when the big player comes to town. That's where you see those price jumps, not typically on the standard face value. That's what they're trying to convince you of, that it's okay for them to do. This is not secondary market. This is straight from AMC themselves, and people are not happy about it. On this side of the Atlantic, single ticket prices a few cents shy of $20 for the Batman are being found, and reportedly in New York and California. For comparison's sake, AMC's tickets for Uncharted cost nearly as much as $17.99 or higher. And it is becoming expensive as hell. AMC is constantly saying, oh, we're in trouble, we're gonna go bankrupt, we're in trouble, we're gonna go bankrupt. They keep raising their prices and raising their prices. Now, maybe this is just a price hike, but trying to make it not seem that way for right now. I don't know what their end goal here is. I do think it won't matter too much. I do not think them charging this is gonna prevent that many people from seeing it. I simply don't. The market kind of dictates that, and people can say all they want. Oh, how could you pay hundreds of dollars to go to a sporting event? How could you pay hundreds of dollars to go to a concert? And people pay it if they think it's worth the value. So that's yet to be seen what impact this might have. Gouging or not, this practice of variable pricing isn't exactly new to the cinema industry. Theaters around the world charge different prices during the week for matinees, for evenings, and for luxury seating. I agree. Still, it's been met with skepticism in regards to viability in American markets when preference is being shown to some films over others. The idea also gives the impression that AMC is questioning the quality of one release compared to the other, particularly those that aren't a tentpole. Aaron sees the criticism and views as a gamble, and it'll pay off for the AMC in the long term. AMC has been a bold thinker in the area of pricing, one who's willing to take risk and one who's willing to lead and one who sees considerable upside opportunity for us ahead if we continue to be imaginative. Again, I think there's a lot of pushback to it. At the end of the day, I don't think too many people are going to be affected. I think it's a shitty move. I do think that, but if they can charge more, then they're going to do that. That's how it works. Now, if people reject it, prices will come down. You know, that will happen in this case. If people reject it, they say, fuck AMC, I'm going to Regal, I'm going to here instead. Maybe that makes them rethink this. But if they continue to see the same amount of purchases, yeah, they're only going to keep increasing the prices. The chain floated in the orbit of bankruptcy while other companies look to adjusting their strategies. Consequently, they may follow suit with AMC and adopt variable pricing. In the end, though, the real rub is some of the biggest filmmakers and Hollywood power players saw the phenomenon coming years ago. George Lucas predicted the decline of movie theaters and higher prices in 2013. And this is pretty fucking insane to see, actually. 2013, this is almost 10 years ago at this point. 9 years. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Studios will implode. Video on demand is the future. And now we do see video on demand increasing. Obviously, streaming services have blown up, all these things. But it's really funny. Looking in their crystal ball, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg predicted the imminent arrival of a radically different entertainment landscape, including pricey movie tickets, a vast migration of content to video on demand, and even programmable dreams. They're talking about the goddamn metaverse. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the metaverse. Spielberg says there's eventually going to be a big meltdown. There's going to be an implosion where 3 or 4, or maybe even half dozen of these mega budgeted movies go crashing into the ground, and that's going to change the paradigm again. Interesting. What did George Lucas say after that meltdown? So we have had a little bit of that, right? We have had a situation, in large part due to the COVID reaction and all that nonsense, where we did have a couple big budget films that flopped and failed, disastrously so. Now, all of a sudden this year, everything's reopened and we're seeing a hike in prices. Interesting. George Lucas said that after that meltdown, you're going to end up with fewer theaters, bigger theaters with a lot of nice things. Going to the movie would cost $50 or $100 or $150, like what Broadway costs today, or a football game. It'll be an expensive thing, and it'll sit in the theaters for a year like a Broadway show does. That will be called the movie business. There will be big movies on a big screen. It'll cost a lot of money. Everything else will be on small screens. Almost that way now. Lincoln and Red Tail's barely got in theater. You're talking about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas can't get their movies into a theater. And now we're seeing the explosion of streaming services. Very interesting wisdom, I suppose, from George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. But what do you guys think? I think it's an interesting conversation because on one hand, do I think that in like the very middle to back center of the movie theater, I could kind of justify paying more to be there? Yeah, I kind of could. In the same token that I don't want to pay $20 to get a seat in the very front row where I'm like craning my neck up the whole time. You know what I mean? That actually makes sense to me. However, charging more specifically to see the Batman when like another movie has just come out, maybe waiting 2 weeks to see the Batman until its regular price, that is just, in general, I'm hesitant towards that. I don't like the idea of that. Now, maybe that's just my internal biases immediately. I don't like that reaction to it. I'm thinking of it in a sports way, but what do you guys think about AMC? It's interesting to see a lot of the backlash headed their way from this decision. Let me know in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone. And a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.